This one and this one. And this. Okay, cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland. And it's very special for me because I am honored to have NORMA LOEB on from the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center. NORMA, good morning to you.
Good morning, Louis. Thank you for having me on today.
I'm delighted and truly honored. I want to talk a little bit about you and your background and how you got involved in doing the work that you're doing today, if you would, please.
Surely, thank you. My mom had Lewy body dementia, and when she first noticed there was a problem was when she was 75, which is many years ago. And she noticed that she had problems doing her checkbook, and she was really good with numbers, so that was unusual for her. And she told me about it, and she showed me the checkbook, and that's how I initially got started, bringing her to an internist who said, quote, it was a normal part of aging, which, as everybody please should know, it is not a normal part of aging. And from there, step after step after step, it took 3.5 years for her to be diagnosed correctly, which is also not unusual, but getting better these days than it was. This is more than 20 years ago. And that's how I first got started. And she was first misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's, and then 2 years later with Parkinson's. And then it took quite a bit of time at major New York hospitals for her to be diagnosed correctly.
I know that people have come a long way with diagnosing, and if you don't mind, I'm going to put my personal experience in. For me, Norma, I am kind of stunned at how many years mine has been going on until actually diagnosed. And there's someone close to me that's not as forgiving with some of the medical, saying it's definitely not this, definitely not that. That's searching for a diagnosis. It really stunned me, and I believe I shared this with you. I was trying to reduce stuff so family members don't have to say, was this book important to them? I'm getting the books donated, I'm getting things in the recycling bin. And I came across some notes that I had written about a blog that I did about a friend of mine who had cancer and how courageous he was and he was obviously alive when I wrote this. And at the top of the page I had, which has now become one of my things, that would say, my brain is no longer my friend. That's what I would say when I would get confused. And he died 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I believe. So that's how long it had been going on, some of it with me to where I am. And then finally getting a diagnosis after exhibiting physical symptoms. Prior to that, everything is okay. And again, I don't think a lot of doctors understand what it is. Is that fair?
Yeah, Louis, wow, that is a very long time. And that is a quote I just wrote down to remember, because I think that will be helpful for other people with Lewy body to hear, because they're going through the same thing. I can tell you that 100% of the people who either call our helpline or attend support groups will say, I know that particularly caregivers who notice it in their loved ones, that there were symptoms many years ago, but we didn't realize what was happening. Every single person says that, because you don't know what to attribute it to. And yours was a very long time. Usually the cognition issues will show up more recently than that, but the REM sleep disorder, and we can talk about symptoms if you like,
please,
which I think would be helpful, is REM sleep disorder is an early sign. And what I mean by that is when we sleep, usually what happens when we're dreaming, our body is sort of paralyzed. So if we're running in our sleep or throwing a ball, our arms and legs are not moving. It's what happens during sleep. But if you have this REM behavior disorder, then your arms are moving, your legs are moving, you can hit the person next to you in the bed, you can knock over a lamp, you can fall out of the bed and be talking. And that actually is an early sign of this. It's one of the early signs. That happened to you as well?
Yeah, right. When I've got to do a quick disclaimer, Norma, when I laugh at myself. I don't laugh at anybody else's. I make fun of mine. I don't not I don't want it to be offensive to anyone, but I'm laughing because of how many times I've found myself on the floor.
Oh,
Falling out.
no.
Seriously, again, I'm laughing. It's not always pleasant, but it's just,
I'm
what am I
happy.
doing on
I'm
the
happy
floor?
that you're able to laugh. Yes, and so that actually is an early sign, and people don't understand what's happening, or a spouse may think, well, this is just how they sleep, but there's more to it than that. Also, an early sign of any type of dementia is a loss of smell. And people have other signs of not just the normal forgetfulness. So I don't want them to worry about that. But it's and more so with Lewy body versus with Alzheimer's, it's not memory issues per se that happen first. It's cognition issues. And what I mean by that, it's problems with multitasking and problem solving. It's doing a few things at once, and how can I fix this, more than a memory issue, which will happen later on.
And
So
go ahead.
yes, please.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, in addition to those cognition issues, so that everybody knows what the symptoms of Lewy body are. The REM sleep disorder is a part. Not every single person gets that. And I also want to say that every person with Lewy body is different. They progress differently. There's no set of rules that this is going to happen first and this is happening second. It doesn't work that way. But these multiple symptoms together are what will help to know that it is possible Lewy body. So in addition to those cognition issues, there is, as you mentioned, the movement problem. So those are called, they're Parkinson's symptoms or Parkinsonian symptoms, where people are going to feel stiffness in their arms and legs, or slowness of movement, and difficulty getting up out of a chair. Many people will have the look of Parkinson's, not necessarily the tremor that everybody thinks, but the chin could be jutting out, the mouth could be open later on with Parkinson's. That's a look. So those are two, and the REM sleep disorder, that are main symptoms. But there are others, and one very important one to remember, which really distinguishes Lewy body from the other dementias, and that is fluctuations. And so fluctuations, meaning that on some days you may be having difficulty on finding words and might not be able to answer a question readily. And on other days, you're speaking fluently and you have no problem. It's as if a light switch went off and now you're clear as day. And you might even think to yourself, as I've heard many people with Lewy body say, I think I wasn't diagnosed correctly because I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then later on that day or the next day, they're having trouble thinking, how do I use a toothbrush? So it's really difficult for all of you who have Lewy body, and then for the caregivers who don't understand what's happening, and especially because people have never heard of it, unfortunately, as yet.
I'm talking with Norma, who is of the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center. And we've got links up. You can just go directly to lewybodyresourcecenter.org, lewybodyresourcecenter.org. And I'm going to tell you, it's a godsend what you've done for me, Norma, to be able to see and understand. I get emotional because it is difficult to understand. And I think it's important for me to tell some of my personal experience, because I'm sure there are people that when I was diagnosed and I would tell them, and they might walk away thinking, there's nothing wrong with him. I don't mean it in a mean way. It's just like, I don't know why he's hung up on that, whatever. I had an experience I guess this was now a few weeks ago, where I was on. I felt I was rolling. It was like the day was going. It was like I'm doing what I need to do. I've got it together. I was exercising, and my shoelace became untied, and I couldn't remember how to tie my shoe. And that was like, something I've done, I don't know, for 60, I don't know when you learn to tie your shoelaces, 60 plus years. And I literally could not figure it out. And it was very frustrating. Uh, Things like that. And it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
It is, Louis. Thank you. That was the perfect example because people can hear what you do and know how much knowledge you have on so many topics and able to have that conversation, and then that will happen. And I lead a support group for people who have Lewy body. And though I've been leading groups for caregivers for almost 15 years in New York, the group for people with Lewy body has been for 2 years now. And I have learned more in these 2 years than in the 25 years of dealing with this because it's so specific, just as you shared that information on what's happening, the fluctuations, the frustration when you can't think of a word, and then other people think, why is he saying this? Because he seems fine to me. And then that bothers people too. And then there are other symptoms on top of the ones we already spoke about. So I thank you and honor you for sharing what you're going through because people really need to hear it. And it's not easy.
Thank you for what you do with the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center, because again, people don't understand. You're talking about caregivers. So many places I want to go, Norma, but having the caregiver that's try to understand it, because again, I don't understand it. I don't get what's going on. I am I grateful for the diagnosis? I'm asking myself a question now. Yes, because I was to the point, Norma, where I really thought I don't want to make it a long story. I ended up with a new physician through my regular physician. See, I'm struggling for words now. I had retired after decades, went to another one who became a hospitalist a couple of months after I was with him, and then found a new doctor. And she is absolutely amazing. And she was determined to figure out what was going on. And she was listening, which was amazing. I had more tests done I think in the first 6 months of last year than I probably had in the prior 50 years of my life combined. I mean, she was testing everything, and everything, of course, was coming up normal or okay. And it wasn't until I developed some physical symptoms. I had the sleep issue, but I lost like 30 pounds not trying and over a few months, and eventually developed my digestive tract became a mess. And I eat a really healthy plant-based whole foods diet. And again, not to be crude, but couldn't remember. It probably was decades since I was constipated. It would go extreme constipation to extreme diarrhea. It wasn't until I started to develop a little bit of a tremor in my right hand and was sent to Cleveland Clinic. She sent me to Cleveland Clinic to a neurologist who diagnosed it. Yet there's still question about whether, not for me, but is it a Parkinson's? Is it a spectrum disorder? Whatever. And the only way, my understanding, Norma LOEB, to actually know it's Lewy body is when they autopsy the brain. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, Louis, and thank you for bringing up about, I'll just go back to the constipation part, which is really important to bring up as well, because Lewy body dementia affects the whole autonomic system. And what that means is that anything that happens automatically in the system, and constipation is also an early sign. Now, that doesn't mean if you've been constipated all your life that you have Lewy body, but that in conjunction with the other things that we're talking about is definitely a symptom. Sometimes it can go the other way that people have diarrhea, but constipation is an early sign. The whole autonomic system where people can feel hot or cold. And for others, their blood pressure can drop rapidly. And so it's called orthostatic hypotension. And so for some people, they may collapse on the floor, and it's because their blood pressure dropped if they got up too soon. That's another symptom. And another one is a visual spatial issue,
Yeah.
meaning it's a problem with depth perception. So you may reach for a glass in front of you, but you're reaching to the right or to the left. Or you might find that you're hitting a curb. And by the way, people with Lewy body should no longer be driving. I have to say that. I know it's the most difficult thing for people to give up, but your perception is not the same as it was. And to answer you about a diagnosis, there are some tests, some people have MRI, some people have PET scans, and particularly neuropsych tests can help to distinguish which part of the brain is affected, but sometimes they're 4 hours long, not easy to do. But
Wow.
there's also a DAT scan that can determine Parkinson's and has also been now approved by the FDA for determining Lewy body in some regard. And there's also a new skin test that's been out for the past year and a half that I can tell you a lot of doctors don't know about. They are going to show their findings at the American Neurological Association next month. And they have been getting good results. It's through a company called CND, Charlie Nancy David, cndlifesciences.com. And I can send that to you, Louis, separately.
Yeah.
Again, it's cndlifesciences.com. And they have a skin biopsy test that they will send for free to a doctor who requests it. And what they do is they take a small piece of skin from the neck, back of the knee, and the ankle, and then it's sent. They use their labs, and it takes a few weeks to distinguish. But from what I'm told from one of the co-founders of the company is that other ways people take spinal taps, or known as lumbar punctures, to check the spinal fluid. And many times that can help determine. But from what Dr. Levine said, the spinal fluid changes, I'm told, can change every day. I don't have a medical background, so let me just say that. But the skin test, he said, things stay on our skin for 20 plus years. So they've been finding that that's been effective. Nothing's 100%, but it's getting closer.
One of the things, Norma, for me, with the diagnosis, and I alluded to it earlier, I started to feel that maybe I was like insane, that I was imagining all this, that because all the tests were coming back okay, until some of the physical things started to come out. It was like, well, maybe I'm truly insane. Maybe I'm okay, and why am I doing this to myself? So the diagnosis, as bizarre as it sounds, was a little bit of I don't want to say a relief, but a better understanding, yet with no cure, no treatment, no slowing it down. It's like, okay, but at least for me, I choose to see it as a bit of a blessing. Maybe that will offend some people, because I understand my mortality better. And yeah, I could fall down the steps and hit my head and die tonight, of course. Yet I understand what's coming with this. I mean, we're all going to die. I know all that, certainly. Yet I am more grateful for the positive times. So I've in my late age, I've a better understanding, and I'm grateful now that I understand what it is that's going on. Am I making any sense, Norma?
Yes, Louis, I can tell you 100% you're making sense. And it seems to me the perfect time to bring this up for those who don't know that this is the disease that Robin Williams had, but he never knew he had it. And so he was misdiagnosed with Parkinson's. He was misdiagnosed with depression. I also want to say that depression and anxiety are other symptoms of this disease. And because Robin had depression as a younger man, they assumed it was that. They seem to have been getting closer. His wife, Susan Williams, has done a lot of work. And we worked together on a documentary called Robin's Wish. I was one of the consultants on the film. It's a documentary about Robin's last 4 years of his life. And I can tell you that she has said many times, if you hear her speak, that she thinks it would have made a tremendous difference for him to understand what was happening to him because he didn't know.
Yeah.
And to me, I always think of Robin Williams had 1,000 voices in his head on a good day. So I can imagine what was happening when he didn't know what was happening.
Because you do start to think that. And again, for me, when I was going in the earlier time, trying to figure out what was going on, and I'm not one to doctor. Someone close to me says that, you know, if I cut a finger off, I duct tape it back on. And that's, you know, that might be a little extreme. But I have used duct tape when I've hurt myself before. I'm not one to run to the doctor for, unless I absolutely have to. And going all these times now over these years, trying to figure it out, they wanted to put me on, and did, antidepressants. It said, well, you're depressed. And my response was, and I know this sounds a little harsh when I say it, you'd be depressed too if you felt your brain was no longer your friend. And I had tried TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, because I had a guest on. It was, he said, before he would go to, we developed a friendship, and he'd say, before I go to university to teach, I would be up in the morning, I feel good, then I feel like my brain was shutting down. I thought, oh God, that's me. To get the TMS approved by insurance, I had to fail at, I think, 3 classifications of antidepressants at max dose. So you got to get on them. They're hard getting on. They're hard getting off. I mean, it's miserable. And again, I did the TMS twice and with no results. So that searching for a diagnosis is difficult.
It's really difficult. And because we were just talking about this, I realized I didn't mention another important symptom, a really one that most people get are hallucinations.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And for the information is that because this is such a difficult disease, it's interesting in its own right because it's bizarre, as you said. Most people will have hallucinations of children or small animals, and they're not frightened by them. I don't know what you've had, but other people see hieroglyphics. They can see monsters. They can see people coming into their home. They become very frightening. And so hallucinations are a good indication to many doctors. And by the way, it's usually neurologists who diagnose this disease because most GPs are not going to know it at all. And the hallucinations, this is extremely important for people to know as well. Why is it so important to be diagnosed correctly when it's so hard to get diagnosed? Because we know people are misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's. There's no cure right now, or Parkinson's, and not for Lewy body right now. It's because people with Lewy body dementia are extremely sensitive to medications, and the wrong ones can make you much worse. So again, I don't have a medical background. I don't want to speak too much about medications, except I can tell you, because of the neurologists on my board, as well as geriatricians, and the information on the Mayo Clinic, National Institute of Health, and the thousands of people I've talked to, is that a medication, an older antipsychotic such as Haldol should never be given to someone with Lewy body. It can make you much worse. And that type of information is what people need to know. I find that wherever, if someone goes to an emergency room, and people don't know this because they still haven't heard of Lewy body dementia, even though it's the second most common form of dementia after Alzheimer's disease. 1.4 million Americans are said to have it. And I can tell you, I am sure that's a low estimate because of the difficulty with diagnoses.
When you say that about hallucinations, and that's something that that I've experienced, and it's bizarre with a medication. I can say for me, the medication, to find doctors that listen to you, and I've got to again praise the GP that I have. She listens, she takes time, and I appreciate that she continued to to look for what was wrong and just wasn't dismissive, like some are. You're depressed, that's it. It's not that, it's whatever. The medications can, and for me, and this is just for me personally, my brain saying you probably shouldn't be talking about this, but I feel that my greatest asset's also my greatest liability. There's no filter between my brain and my mouth. When you say specifically to a physician that the tremors don't concern me, I don't want to get medicated for because they'll increase the hallucinations. And at this point, I don't know what will happen with the physical symptoms, the tremors, etc. It's not concerning for me. Yet the medication increased I was in for trying anything initially, and the hallucinations just are bizarre, and I don't feel that I need to be medicated for the tremors. That may sound outrageous, but it's my life, it's my body.
Not at all.
It's my brain, and I don't need to increase that. Most of my hallucinations, well, they were somewhat pleasant initially. Cats, and until I was in a store, I can't believe I'm saying this, and saw a cat under a display with a baby's face. That was unnerving. It didn't frighten me, except when I was looking, it's like, doesn't anyone else see? And I know it sounds bizarre when I say it now, Norma, that cat with the baby's face underneath. That was, and I've had some good ones, yet those are waning, and the other ones are worsening a bit. But again, it's all part of it. And when you understand it, it doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it better. It's like, oh, I had a hallucination, because in the moment, it's not a hallucination for you. Norma, one of the things that I've said this for a while, when the doctor would ask, do you hallucinate? And my response was, well, how would I know? And you see things that other people don't see. That doesn't mean they're not there. Not being argumentative, being more humorous, trying to deal with it with a little humor, at least initially. But
that is such a great response, Louis.
How would I know?
How would I know? Because I can tell you from the others that I know who have Lewy body, they say the same thing. Well, it's real to me.
Real to me.
That's what I'm saying. And how do I know? I love that response, and I think I'm going to use I'm going to use a lot of your lines, if you don't mind, because
please.
I can tell you that when people have seen those type of things, some feel that they can say it to a partner, and others don't want to say it because they know that they don't see it, and I'm going to be quiet. I don't want to say it. And I just know, as you said, that's going to pass. And I know that cat shouldn't have a baby face, but it's not easy. It's not easy. Again, those are the ones that haven't been frightening to you, but other people can have very frightening ones and need medication. And that's why the right diagnosis and the right medication is needed for all of that. And my hope is that people will be diagnosed more readily, more quickly, so that all of this can be avoided, and the misunderstanding. And also, people don't like to say dementia. So
well, it is.
There's so many legs to this disease, and that's why I work every single day to bring awareness to Lewy body dementia, so that people can get an earlier diagnosis, so that they're not. Because what also happens is some people are misdiagnosed with a psychiatric disorder, and all of this, as you said before, it's on the spectrum with Parkinson's. There's so much misunderstood and not known about the brain. But I can tell you that there's more research being done now in the past 3 years than ever before, than in all these years. Yes. So I just feel they're coming closer, but it's still so misunderstood. And so because people are not aware of it, it's an extra burden on you and family members when they're trying to talk about it with difficulty, because people don't understand it. They don't even know how to begin to understand.
And you do such a wonderful job of explaining it to people and doing the groups that you do, Norma Loeb, I've got to ask, I know you shared that about your mom, but what continues to drive you? Because it's
Thank you.
amazing what you do. And I love the site and the information that you provide, because again, people need answers, and you provide so.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It's so briefly, well, not so briefly. My mom had the disease for 18 years, which is not the norm. And so I just want people to know that many people ask, how long do people live with this? So many different things have been said, 4 to 7 years, but then and now it's 2 to 20 years. I know people who have passed away in less than 2 years after diagnosis, which what does that mean? Because they've had it before anyway. And my mom had it for 18 years. She was bedridden the last 7 years and lived with me. So, and that's also not the norm. So I just want everyone to know that. But I was with her from the moment she told me she couldn't do a checkbook all through those 18 years because we were very close. And she had every symptom except the drop in the blood pressure, which is, she didn't have that, known as orthostatic hypotension. She had every symptom, and I was with her every step of the way, and I had gotten so much information on what needed to be done. I knew nothing. I didn't know what Parkinson's disease was. I didn't know anything about someone being, in a bed and how to handle any of the behaviors, but I learned it. And I just didn't want people to have to start from scratch like I did because I had all this information. So again, I've been leading the support groups for so many years. And then I started my own organization. I was on the board of LBDA, which is in Atlanta, for 3 years, but I saw there was so much more individual one-on-one help that people needed, which is why I founded the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center. And my mom, I founded it, my mom passed 7 years ago, and I founded it then. And I just feel that I have so much information to share and know the difficulties for the person who has it, as well as the caregivers, and how much awareness needs to be made so that when you say, Louis, that you go to somebody and they're saying there's nothing wrong, it's so frustrating. I can't tell you how many misdiagnoses and how many, oh dear, that's so rare kind of thing from another doctor. It could, it's really difficult for everybody involved, which is why I do what I do.
It's incredible. And your drive to do that and helping the people, like you say, and the caregivers. Let's talk a little bit, Norma, about the caregivers, because they don't, certainly no one knows. I initially, I don't, I can't imagine someone going, oh, Lewy body, I thought that might be it. It's just, I knew nothing about it. And again, my way of dealing with it a little bit with a little humor, even though it's not spelled the way I spell Lewy, it's Lewy body, and I'm demented. And friends will say the demented part we've known for decades. And again, I try to say it and deal with it as humorously for me, not somebody else's, as I can. It's a choice that I make. But again, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know it existed, like most people. When I've said that initially, a friend of mine told another friend, and got back to me, of course, and they were laughing, but that they thought that I made up the Lewy bot, that it was Lewy, that I was saying, well, what is it that we, what that
Oh
Lewy,
no, that's
yeah,
funny.
and this is a really smart guy. The one guy who's really smart. He had never heard of it. And I understand that unless you experience it, but he thought it was that I was like joking about it initially when I said the diagnosis. I'm sorry, Norma, go ahead.
No, I love that. Actually, I'm going to use that line too. You just made that up for how you're feeling. Wow. Yeah, because we have found that besides people not hearing of it, they don't know how to spell it. So one of my board members has talked about that before, that she was mentioning to, some very intelligent people who wanted information and look it up online, but they couldn't find it because they didn't know how to spell Lewy, which is Lewy, and they don't think of that. It actually is named after Friedrich Lewy, who discovered Lewy bodies in the brain in the early 1900s. But Lewy body itself wasn't known to the 1990s. So that's why, the same way Alzheimer's wasn't known till about 50 years ago with senility. And so, yes, and now I forgot your question.
No, it's just
Um,
your caregivers working, helping
thank
caregivers
you.
understand.
So why, caregiving is not for everyone. Let me say that first of all. It's just not for everyone, but for those who choose and want to help, and it's so admirable for people to want to help and need to help every single day. But for caring for anyone, for children, for anyone with any disease, why it's so difficult for people who are caring for someone with Lewy body is because in it there are physical issues, there are emotional ones, there are mental ones. And on top of that, the fluctuations so that you don't know what to expect from hour to hour, from day to day. How is the person going to be today? They don't know because it's never the same. As you know, Louise, just it's never the same. And that is a burden on top of the fact if they try to explain it to someone who's never heard of the disease and doesn't understand it, they have nowhere to turn, which is why we have the only life helpline in the US for the disease. And people can call, I'll say the number is 516-218-2026. Again, it's 516-218-2026. And we also have 833 LBD line to make it a little easier to remember. And they have nowhere else to turn, which is why we have the support groups and the helpline and the website with hundreds of pages of information, actually, because I wanted to be sure that you just could go to one place to find the information. So it's really hard for caregivers, but we're trying to do as much as we can to help.
You do an amazing job. Again, I will say again, so much information that I have found at your website that's been so helpful for me and a couple of others that are close to me. I said, just go there and read. And if you're interested, and you'll learn, because you have all that, like you say, in one place. And it's an incredible resource, the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center. And of course, we've got those links up where you can go directly to lewybodyresourcecenter.org. That's lewybodyresourcecenter.org. And the phone numbers are up there, et cetera. A wealth of information. Norma, I'm so grateful. Time went way too quickly. So I hope maybe we can do a part two while I'm still able to do this. Go ahead.
I'd be happy to anytime. I think I would just like to point out, it would be helpful on the website. There's a yellow box that says Views from Within. And it's a video series that just went up on the website after working on it for a year. It just went up last week. There are 10 different segments on different symptoms. And they're about 20 minutes each. And they have people with Lewy body,
privacy content,
caregivers, and doctors speaking.
It's on your screen.
Okay, so up on the, tell me again, it's up on the, oh, I see.
I'm sorry. So right on the website, yes, it says
it.
it's in a yellow box, Views from Within, a Lewy body series, video series. And it's 10 different segments. There's one on hallucinations, one on fluctuations, one on movement. And I just find that it can be extremely helpful to people because you're hearing it from people living it, just as you just explained, Louis, from caregivers and from doctors explaining each individual symptom. So my hope is that will help many more people. We are just putting it on social media actually tomorrow with a press release. So I'm saying it here first.
Thank you for that. And I see it. And the Views from Within, a Lewy Body video series. That's excellent. Excellent. I highly recommend for people that are interested, or if you know somebody, because the searching for a diagnosis can be awful. Again, I've got to say, Norma, that it's an awful disease. Getting diagnosis, I don't know exactly how to say it. Is a sense of relief knowing that for me, I'm just talking about for me personally, that I was not imagining these things, I wasn't creating these things in my head. I wasn't from something in it, but yet it's a horrible diagnosis for people. And it's a horrible disease. And I'm grateful for you in the world and what you've done, Norma Loeb. It had to be the difficulties with your mom, and then sharing with the world what you know, and continue to do that is incredible. So I'm grateful to you. Not personally, I am also, and for the way you were, but for who you are in our world and helping people and caregivers and friends to understand what's going on.
Thank you, Louie. I'm so appreciative. I want to thank you for giving me the time to speak of this, and I really want to honor and I highly respect what you do, because this is not easy for anyone. It's not easy for anyone to do. And for you to come out and speak about this and share it, I think can be hugely important to people who are experiencing this. And I thank you for this opportunity for everyone.
Friends
Yeah.
forever now, right, Norma?
Yes, absolutely, Louie. And you should be in the support group also, or call any. Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to be on again anytime.
I would love that.
Yes.
I would love that. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Norma.
much.
Norma
Thank
Loeb.
you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Wishing you a beautiful day.
thank you. You can get a wealth of information at the website. She's incredible.